Hello. Today I'm going to talk about nationalism and how it relates with both, or how it can relate rather, with both colonization and imperialism, along with the definition of an ideology and whether or not nationalism is or is not an ideology. Nationalism, according to Hans Kohn on Britannica.com, is, quote, an ideology based on the premise that the individual's loyalty and devotion to the nation state surpass other individual or group interests, end quote. And then also, the definition of an ideology is a systematic scheme of ideas relating to politics, economics, or society, and can initiate action or policy. It can be a set of beliefs governing conduct or worldview. So when you put these two together, ideology and nationalism, nationalism is indeed an ideology. Also, because directly in the quote, it says nationalism is an ideology based on the premise that of the rest of the definition. Also, nationalism is an ideology because it is the idea that one's country is higher or better than another person's country. And we'll talk about that in regards to imperialism and colonialization, or colonialism, sorry. Yep. This ideology of nationalism can lead to occurrences like colonization or imperialism. First, according to Baldwin and Quinn in Defining Imperialism and Colonialism in 2007, imperialism can be defined as, quote, territorial expansion from a center outwards driven by ideology and resulting in a coherent graphical entity. This shows that nationalism can basically fuel or be the fuel needed for imperialism, because imperialism is stated in the quote, driven by ideology, and it's pretty much just, a country expanding itself and seeing all the other countries around it as inferior to itself. But that would be in the nationalist ideology, whereas there could be other ideologies such as a religious ideology where you see the other countries around you as opposing to yourself due to the fact that their opinions or ideas don't align with yours or your country's. It could be a political ideology, which can go hand in hand with nationalism, and that could be anything in terms of how other countries run their government, and basically that could oppose with the way that you see how government should be run, or it could oppose how you or your country think that their country should be run, which can lead to imperialism. Now moving on to colonialism, this is also from the same source. It's defined as a, quote, less homogeneous practice than imperialism and tends to develop without a coherent plan or driving ideology. Rather, it comes about for commercial motives and therefore frequently presents problems of centralized control for the government of the colonizing power, end quote. So this quote basically tells us how colonialism and imperialism are, how they differ and how they're not the same thing, because many people get those confused. Imperialism is driven by an ideology, whereas colonialism is not driven by ideology, but it comes about for commercial motives. So basically, colonialism can happen due to a country needing money, possibly needing people, maybe needing goods or services or anything like that. Which is why, like in throughout history, many countries have exploited other countries because of the need for goods that they can't have in their own country. So they use those other countries as a means to get those goods somehow through colonization. Now, Taking those both into consideration, nationalism can be directly attributed to instances of imperialism, because imperialism is driven by an ideology, and nationalism being the ideology that it is, which is seeing your own country as more powerful or better than other countries, can basically be the pushing factor into leading to imperialism. So overall, nationalism is an ideology which can lead to which can lead to imperialism. Imperialism and colonialism are different in terms of how imperialism is ideologically driven, and colonialism is more so driven by commercial motives. Nationalism overall has had such a large impact on the world, which is why it's so important to learn. The British Empire has used nationalism as fuel for imperialism throughout the history, along with the United States today in places like Puerto Rico. And really, nationalism is just a large reason for how countries are split to this day, and it'll continue to have a long-lasting effect throughout the future. Thank you.